No, it would be about something entirely different, just a different political issue regarding the presidential election.
Okay.
But I just haven't been following that as closely as I follow local politics.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak about something that I don't know a whole bunch about. So I ended up not doing that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? Do you believe more in local politics? Like you can have a bigger impact with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
It's so hard to follow presidential elections for me. I think that there's so much that the media reports that is not true.
Yes.
And so how much of your opinion is based off of something that's not even true?
Mm-hmm.
So with local politics, it's a lot easier to show up in person, see what's really going on. And that's why I think I wanted to get more involved in that way, because I can't show up to all these state meetings.
Yeah. You'd be driving all the time. You'd be going everywhere.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So what made you want to run in the first place? Did you just look out and you were like, I can make this better?
Yeah. So Eureka City Council, I decided to run mainly because growing up in Eureka, there was a large amount of kids that I went to elementary school with that ended up not graduating high school.
Okay.
And so one of my biggest issues, or one of the main issues that I chose to focus on during my campaign was homeless children.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the kids that dropped out were homeless at a young age. And there was no one monitoring them. Once they dropped off of the school system record, there was no one tracking them. And now I see them on the Last Coast Outpost.
Yeah.
Which broke my heart. And it wasn't being brought up at Eureka City Council meetings. It was an issue where you hear it all the time, like, oh, how do we solve the homeless issue? And a lot of people think, well, they must all come from out of the area,
mm-hmm.
which, sure, that's probably a small percentage of it. But if you look at the numbers, recently I went to a state senator town hall meeting held by Senator Mike McGuire.
Okay.
And he had a survey done for all of the different kids from 2 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
That was done in Humboldt County. And it was a survey about, what is your home life like? Are you homeless? Do you have 3 meals a day?
Mm-hmm.
Really basic, essential things. And the survey came back that over 900 kids in Humboldt County were homeless.
Oh, wow.
And so when the economy or society in Eureka or in Humboldt County is looking at, well, how do we solve this problem? And to me, it's like they're focusing on, the drug addicts out on the street,
mm-hmm.
or they only see and focus on those people, then they don't pay any attention to the 900 kids that are on the street and how we can try and solve this problem from the
mm-hmm.
very start, because these kids haven't done anything to deserve that kind of treatment.
Yeah.
It's so much harder for them to get good grades in school and do well and even graduate in that kind of environment. And a lot of people, even local people, don't know about that issue.
Well, yeah. How do you focus on school when you're worried about getting your next meal?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that seems like such a low priority thing when you don't have a place to sleep,
mm-hmm.
which is crazy. That's interesting that was like kind of your primary thing to go after, because it seems like nobody wants to touch that issue, especially around here, which is surprising because we have such a huge
mm-hmm.
population of homeless people around here.
Yeah, and Eureka City Council, they have a general budget where
mm-hmm.
they can delegate what they want to spend that money on. And they were throwing a lot of it away. In my opinion, they were mismanaging the budget.
That seems to be a common theme, like across the board in politics, is everybody's just mismanaging. And then they're like, okay, let's raise the tax.
Mm-hmm.
And then people get pissed and they're like, why don't you just spend the money better?
Yeah.
But nobody wants to do that.
Exactly.
Do you think that that's intentional, or do you think that they really believe in the programs, or are we just recycling programs at this point? Because it doesn't seem like it should be this hard, right? You should be able to try something. If it doesn't work, then improve it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem like we do that.
I think a lot of the problem stems from people who make decisions. Then they make decisions. I would say that some of the city council members they make decisions based off of negligence.
Okay.
So they don't know that that's such a big issue. They don't get involved as much as people who have been here or grew up here in the community.
I mean, you got really involved.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where I just thought, I'm the only person attending these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'd be the only one sitting in the audience.
Oh, wow.
And I would be watching Eureka City Council making decisions of what to spend money on with general fund money, which is all of our tax-paying money, on decisions that directly will benefit them
instead of the people.
Instead of the people.
Wow.
So that's how I started to get involved. And I mean, politics is a headache.
Oh, yeah.
But I decided that it's really worth it to try and get myself out there and fix these things, because I'm seeing them happen right in front of my eyes. And I think the public deserves to know about what's going on. And there were a few different times where the media used something that I said as a headline or
clickbait,
or they used, because I will be pretty outspoken about
which is not a bad thing,
the issues.
Yeah.
I mean, if I see it and I know what I'm talking about, then I will go ahead and bring that forward as an issue.
Yeah, which you should. That's what everybody should do.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take a genius to walk outside and look around and be like, okay, we need to fix some stuff.
We have a problem here with something,
Yeah, especially in California as a whole, like the homeless issue is huge and nobody wants to tackle it.
Yeah.
People are defecating on the streets in San Francisco and stuff. Even here, at night, you can walk around and see people just going to the bathroom wherever they want. And it's like, why? And it's hard because it's almost like if you do bring up a plan, I would imagine, nobody really wants to like do anything about it because, you can't move them, you can't try to help them, the programs that are implemented aren't effective.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do?
I mean, so a lot of it has to do with not specifically like homelessness was one example of something that I felt really passionate about that I wanted to change. But another thing is, once you get elected into political office, you have a lot of backing behind you.
Okay.
And what I was planning on doing with that is amending California penal codes and work with the state senator and use that kind of backing that I already established to go ahead and change our laws. Laws that aren't necessarily fair. For example, Penal Code 632. Penal Code 632 states that you need to have two-party consent of video and audio recording in pretty much every situation. You always need that other person's permission unless it's in a public setting or you're a police officer and that sort of thing. But in a private office setting, for example, discrimination is a huge thing. And a lot of the times, people get discriminated against every day. And in the workplace, it still happens very regularly. And how do we prove that in court? So if your boss calls you in to their office and they say, you know what, you're fired because you're too old for this job, or we don't think you're a good fit because you're too young, or you're female, or you're whatever it might be. Employers can discriminate, and really for that employee that was just discriminated against, they have no way to prove that.
Yeah, how do you go about that?
Yeah, and I was focusing on amending this penal code as a last resort, because it is not something that I would encourage people to just go out and record everyone. It's kind of an invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
But in those kinds of situations, I think that it's just to use that information to prove what had just occurred, and just to improve our justice system so that we can enforce these laws.
Yeah. I would imagine, especially in your situation running for office, that you probably came through a lot of that.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
That's so disappointing.
There's a lot. There's a lot of, there's a lot of reasons why. But I mean, really, I don't really want to focus on my own personal reasons of why I wanted to do it. I just think of, if it's happening to me, it's probably happening to a couple thousand more people in California. And I'd really like to make sure that no one else is in that kind of situation where, they've been discriminated against in the workplace and they have no way to prove it.
That's kind of a lost perspective nowadays, I feel like, where you can kind of step outside of yourself and recognize the problem as a whole.
Yeah.
And be like, I'm struggling with this. I assume other people are struggling with this. Like, I want to do something to help everybody. Because it'd be really easy to remove yourself from the situation and be like, okay, I'm out of it. Like, everyone else can fight for themselves. I found my way out.
Yeah.
They can find their own way out. You know what I mean? That's interesting that you kind of had that calling. I feel like a lot of people, well, the world would obviously be a better place if everyone had that calling, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean,
And that's kind of where a lot of my knowledge started, is that I had these personal experiences and I tried to turn to lawyers and attorneys to get advice on what to do about it. And I found out that there's different kinds of things in our California penal codes that don't really make sense, as well as our foster care, and the list goes on and on. I could talk about
brutal one, right?
I could talk about the issues that we have in California all day long.
Do you think it's because the people that are creating these laws, for lack of a better word, are kind of outdated? I mean, we don't really have any young blood in our political system, especially right now, especially locally, and at a small level, community-wise. There's not really a whole lot of young people. How old were you when you ran?
So I broke the record as the youngest person to run for political office in Eureka. I was 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
Time. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, I felt like that was definitely an issue too, because if you look at the demographics of the people who are elected onto local city council, they're all about the same age.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of the issue as well.
Was there a lot of, I don't know, would you call it ageism when you were running? Like, did people kind of hold you down?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think that there is some truth to that, of why you should be cautious of electing a young person, just because they don't have as much life experience.
That is a given.
But also take into effect of what they're saying and why they're saying it and what they also have to offer.
Yeah. Well, you could say the same thing about somebody who's in their 40s or 50s. You could make the argument that they're kind of jaded and that, you know, they've been kind of molded by a system that kind of screws a lot of people. And so maybe they're not as keen or as willing to try new and upcoming ideas that could actually make an impact, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that. And I definitely felt a lot of that. I tried to stay just focused on the issues, and even though there was a whole bunch of craziness during the political campaign on making false claims about me. And
I've heard about I wish I would have followed it, but I think I was in Oregon when you were running. So I didn't follow as closely as I should have, but I've watched some of your debates and read some articles, and it seemed like it got a little heated there.
Oh yeah, it definitely did. It was a good experience and a bad experience.
Yeah.
And so I grew some layers of skin that year with all of the things that were being said about me. Some of them I took into account and used it as constructive criticism to make myself better, and some of it was just...
You just got to throw it away.
It was just, stories that were about me in middle school beating up kids and screaming Satan in the hallways, and a bunch of just random stuff that I don't know where they got it from.
It's interesting how when people feel threatened, they'll do whatever it takes. They'll lash out, they'll try to dig up anything, they'll fabricate stories, whatever it takes to put you down so they feel like they're going to rise by doing that. But I think that speaks volumes on your character. I would way rather vote for somebody who is the one that is slandered, if it's like not valid slander, obviously. But when you're looking at someone and all they're doing is talking crap, kind of like what Trump does to some extent, you know what I mean? It just makes you seem like, oh man, what are you doing?
And
what is happening?
There was a lot of that during the campaign.
Which is crazy because it's like, it's our community, you know, it's such a local level. Like, why are you bashing someone you're going to see every day or every week? Like, what's the purpose of this? What are we trying to do? Mm-hmm. And I didn't get it. Oh, we got a little guest. I'm going to just adjust that really quick. I know we kind of talked about it as you were walking in, but I was a little interested as to what you think about Joe Biden.
Well, like I said, I don't follow the presidential election as much. He was not my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth choice.
Yeah, that kind of seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah.
Who did you want? Who was like your go-to?
My go-to?
Yeah, if you could pick one and be like, this is the one that's going to go the distance.
You know what? I really like Tulsi Gabbard.
I like Tulsi.
You did.
She was so not appreciated.
I know.
And it was crazy. She stood her ground. She seemed like a strong candidate.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know if she just couldn't gain any traction or if it's just how the media was portraying her. But, I mean, God, over Biden, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked her. I also liked Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a big Tulsi Gabbard fan.
Yeah, I could have backed Tulsi for sure.
Yeah. And at the beginning, I liked Andrew Yang.
A lot of people liked him.
Because he brought forward something that a lot of them Well, actually, I don't think it's ever really been talked about as much as during his campaign and how technology is changing our
huge
economy.
factor.
And I thought that was a really great thing to bring up.
I think that's more apparent now than ever how integrated technology is in our lives and how it's only going to get deeper,
Mm-hmm.
especially now. I mean, everything's online because you can't really go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Biden stands a chance against Trump when this goes down?
I don't know. I've been reading different articles about how Trump's got a 70% chance of getting reelected, and I would like to think that I'd much rather have Biden as president, but I honestly don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up.
Yeah.
I don't want to get everyone else's hopes up. Just go out and vote.
Yeah. Which is the problem.
Yeah.
Because people aren't voting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got to be honest. I'm a little bit worried about Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And I consider myself fairly liberal. But from the debates that I've seen him in and some speeches he's given, and I know that this has been reiterated a lot, but it doesn't seem like he's all there. Like,
Well,
he's
yeah.
not as sharp as you would hope a president is, which makes me a little worried about, is he going to be as strong-willed when he gets into office and he's got all this pressure? And the office does age you. I think we've all seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he can take it. And he's run before 2 or 3 times, right?
It's extremely disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, you would think that in America we would have better options than Biden and Trump.
Yes, exactly. I always think about that too.
Right?
Is how
We're
did we
scraping
end
the
up
bottom
with
of the
these
barrel.
people?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it comes down to money.
Money. I would argue the media too.
And the media.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they were clearly pushing for Biden. They've been riding Biden since day one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, this is our guy. We found him. Which is kind of curious.
Yeah.
It's like they hate Trump so much that they're just pulling for anybody.
Yeah.
Which I think Tulsi would have had a way better chance of beating Trump
Yeah.
than Biden is.
Yeah.
With Biden, I think Trump's going to bully him when they start the debates. And he's not got a very good social media presence, which shouldn't matter, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you got to get your message out there.
Yeah.
And he seems like a wreck. He doesn't seem like he's grounded in anything. And I don't know. I mean, you've been in that world more than I have, but it does not look good. It worries me a little bit.
Yeah. It's definitely worrying. I am a little bit disappointed, but at the same time, I'm really focusing on the local issues more so.
Which they say that local is almost more important because it's going to affect you more on a daily basis. Right?
It could, yeah. I mean, the federal budget is a lot bigger than the state and the local budget, but a lot of the tax money that you're paying on the local level and the large budget that the cities do have can be spent on things that can vastly improve the city that you live in.
Yeah. I know you talked about it a little bit in one of the debates that I was watching, but you've volunteered in 10 different countries? Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that. Where?
So I went and I lived in Mozambique, Africa.
Wow.
For a while.
Just because?
I was doing Peace Corps type work.
Okay.
I built an AIDS clinic because it is so popular there. Mm-hmm. I think it's 1 in 3 people had AIDS.
Oh, wow.
In the area that I was at. And then I also helped build an add-on to a school.
Okay.
So that the kids could have somewhere to go. And that was a great experience. And then I've volunteered with wildlife in a lot of different countries. And I found out that I love traveling, so it
was the perfect combination, I imagine.
Yeah, it was great. And after doing a bunch of research, I love studying history. Mm-hmm. I love keeping up to date with politics and figuring out how different people in the world live. And I started to realize that there's a lot that I could do if I just went over there and started taking action. And I did. I mean, it was great because now the people there, and I would like to go back as soon as I can. I just reached out to some of the people that I stayed with in Mozambique last week because they are at an all-time economic low due to the coronavirus. And they don't have a very great healthcare. So I've been kind of worried about them and figuring out, okay, so how can we address this issue? Because I know people personally there that are my friends, and I have experienced their culture to a certain degree, and I still, like, part of my heart is with them.
Oh, I bet.
So
Is it just a lack of resources? Because it seems like a lot of people are willing to help and willing to put in the work. But I mean,
a lot of it has to do with, so their governments are corrupted.
yeah.
Their economy is not very self-sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of opportunities out there, and they've still got a very traditional culture.
Okay.
So, for example, the tribe that I was staying with, the Zulu tribe in Mozambique, they still buy women with cows.
Oh my God.
And so there's a lot of factors. It's not just one thing as to why, they are in this situation, and a lot of it has to do with. I recommend reading the book Economic Hitman, which kind of explains how they say first world countries have taken advantage of these third world countries, further indebting them.
Mm-hmm. Jesus.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, but it's crazy to believe that in 2020, like, you could still buy somebody.
Yeah.
Like, people choose to just kind of block that out because it's not a pleasant thought thinking about that. Like, you don't like it, but what do you do?
Oh yeah, like 2 guys tried to buy me with cows while I was
my
there.
God. Wow.
Crazy, right?
Oh my God. That is insane. Yeah, I don't know. Wow.
It's a big world out there.
Yeah.
Different.
Wow. Cows. Why cows?
Well, they can use that as a resource.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. But I still love them. I appreciate them. I felt very honored to be with them the whole time I was there and talk to them about what they believed in and how we do things over here, and appreciating the differences and just seeing.
What is their perspective on the U.S.?
So the women there that I stayed with, they wanted to hear more and more about all the opportunities that women have here, and they were so inspired, and they really wished that they could have those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And the men there looked at me like I was crazy.
Oh, wow.
And I remember one of them got mad at me when I told him, no, I'm not going to let you buy me with cows. And he got very angry, and I had to explain to him how we do
That's
things.
not how it works.
Yeah. Well, it's so different over there. Like, they don't have mailing addresses, or they don't watch the news. And I mean, it's very interesting.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did that kind of frame your desire to go into politics then? Is to try to make an impact?
I think it was a factor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it'd be hard for it not to be, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Was most of the volunteer work then in Africa?
A lot of it was in Africa. Yeah. South Africa, Mozambique. I did a lot of volunteering in Thailand, Laos, Burma,
Wow.
China. I was actually in Wuhan.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. But not.
Yeah, I was going to say way before.
Not
we should
recently.
make that clear.
You're
way
safe.
before.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's been good.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So your love of traveling probably played into why you wanted to work with the airlines then, I would imagine.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah. So I still work for United Airlines,
Mm-hmm.
also part-time. But I'm on a little bit of a leave because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I can't imagine very many people are flying right now.
Yeah. So our flights have taken reduction. We don't need as much staff there.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's been sick, so I don't want to possibly get him more sick. So ended up taking some time off.
Oh, wow. Your dad's a sheriff
Mm-hmm.
deputy, right?
Yeah.
Wow. How long has he been doing that?
20 years.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
He's been through it then.
Yeah. Before he worked for law enforcement, he worked at one of the mills.
Okay.
For about 10
Locally.
years. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And then he got involved with law enforcement.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
That is one of those things where it's just such a hot button issue.
It is.
Law
It's so
enforcement.
hard for
Oh,
me,
God.
especially being on the
I
left side of the
bet.
fence. And
Yeah.
having my dad be a law enforcement officer and me being very pro supporting of law enforcement, because I know exactly what they do.
Yeah, you see it firsthand, right?
On the local level, like, I know most of the sheriff deputies and police officers in the area, and I have a great deal of respect for a lot of them. And when, I hear a bunch of people, saying that, oh, so-and-so is, racist or whatever, or this and that, and it's very hard for me in that situation to say, well, I support my local law enforcement, and in the situation case by case. I'll just see what's going on in that situation. And I think a lot of people are unfairly stating that all police officers are.
Yeah, that term, all women, all men, all police.
Yeah, and that's
these broad generalizations.
I think for the most part, every law enforcement officer that I have met has been the type of person to put their lives on the line for someone that they barely even know.
Oh yeah, and arguably most, right?
They're like heroes.
Mm-hmm.
In my view, that's like my dad. That's how I grew up.
Yeah,
my dad. Like,
and it's such a high stress environment that, I mean, it takes such a toll on them. And you gotta figure there are people who get into any position that probably shouldn't be there.
Oh yeah,
but the problem is police it's so high stress and it's life or death when you go out there that the stakes are so much higher that when someone does slip up or a person that shouldn't be in a position makes a mistake, then it's magnified and then everyone starts talking about, oh, they're all bad. We got to figure out something for all of them. You know what I mean?
And they're in the spotlight.
All the time, especially now.
Oh yeah, and for example, if like doctors were in the spotlight and a doctor made a split-second decision that cost someone their life, and
that's
if that was highlighted in the media, then a bunch of people would be freaked out about going to see a doctor because there'd be so much negative connotation with that position already because that's what's being talked about so much in the media.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be cases where it's not talked about in the media, but I'm just saying like. There is a lot of negativity around that, and I think for the most part, it's a kind of extreme in a lot of situations.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, there are cases that, some officers made the wrong call or screwed up or shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. But overall, I mean, these people are laying down their lives to protect us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, they're doing a really good job. And there's so few of them and so many of us that...
Yeah. It's such a dangerous job.
Yeah. I mean, right?
And now that I'm dispatching for police, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Gotta be a little
cannot believe that you guys are going out to this call right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the kind of situation where I'm, there's, that they've got guns, that they've got, certain situations that I wouldn't want to show up to, but that's what they do.
Yeah. That's got to be a really high stress job too. I mean, obviously being a police, but yeah, being a dispatcher.
It can be, yeah. But I enjoy it because I enjoy helping people the best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
So I like feeling like I am contributing to the community.
There was a article I read the other day, or video I saw, I think, actually, about this dispatcher. It might have been in California, who he got a call. And the lady was like, I'd like to order a pizza, right?
Mm-hmm.
At first, she's like, why? Do you know who this is? Like,
I have heard that.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Which is great. For those who don't know, she said she'd like to order a pizza. It took him a second, but he caught on that it was a domestic violence situation. He sent the police out there. They got the guy or figured it out. But I thought that was really cool. I mean, you'd have to be... I wouldn't have guessed that it was domestic violence. I'd have been like, what? This is not Pizza Hut. This is a police station.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's what you guys do.
And there are certain calls like that where someone will butt dial 911 or, they will butt dial the police department and you'll hear a bunch of stuff going on in the background and you'll be like, should I take this as a valid call? So you listen and then you've got to make those split decisions. You can sometimes figure out that something is actually happening. They didn't even mean to call it in, but something's happening.
Yeah.
Like those kinds of things can happen at work.
Yeah, and it boils down to you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are the ones that make that call of, oh, we need to send somebody out here. Oh, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing going on. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Someone just accidentally calls. I've accidentally called the police a few times when I was younger. Not necessarily so accidentally, but yeah, I mean, that happens, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's all part of the job. But it's crazy that you do that. That is really awesome. That's insane.
Yeah, it is. I would recommend it because it's a very rewarding job. It is high stress, but it's an honor to be in that position.
Yeah, you're helping people.
If you're good at multitasking and you have good communication skills, I think you'd be a good dispatcher.
Did you want to get into that because of your father?
Yeah, I think that was a large part of it. That's one of the reasons why I decided to be working for the department where I am at now. It's my dad was patrolling in that area, and because of his health problems, because of wanting to get more involved with his life and being able to be there more with him, I decided that was something that I would like to do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I always thought it would be awesome to be a police officer, or just go for a ride along, if nothing else, just to kind of see.
Yeah, well, heck, I've been
experience that
thinking
life.
about it.
Yeah, right?
It's a very noble thing to do.
Rewarding life. Like you're dedicating your life to helping others.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
And that's kind of my gripe. Side note, that's kind of my gripe with the left, is that you have to fall in line.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's the same way on the right, but with the left, you got to fall in line. Otherwise, they will turn on you in an instant.
Yeah.
Like, we're not allowing people to be dynamic. We're not allowing people to believe multiple things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I consider myself, I think I'm, left. I don't think I'm super far left. I'm not way out there. But, like, I also believe in gun rights. I believe in the Second Amendment. I think people have that right. But I also believe in abortion. I think people have that right. And they should get to choose. And with the left, it's like, no, you gotta, these are the guidelines. You have to believe each one of these, and you gotta fall in line. You gotta back this. And then when you start questioning it, then they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it is
They'll turn
very
on you.
frustrating. And I experienced that to an extreme degree, where now all of a sudden reconstructing a 3-lane to 2-lane traffic was a partisan issue. If you
Which is
choose,
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's like, why can't you look at the information presented and make a decision based off of the logical choice, rather than because a certain group is
because
backing
the
it.
Democrats brought it up, or the Republicans brought it up.
Exactly.
Which is crazy. Why would that, how do you even make that stretch to where that would become?
Well, for example, they were talking about, I think it was H&I Street.
And they wanted
right
to
now
condense
it's
it
3.
down to
they
2.
wanted to condense it to 2.
Okay.
And the
think I heard about
progressives
that.
were all for condensing it down to 2. And I guess conservatives would be about keeping it 3. And it was going to use $1 trillion of tax money. It was going to then cause traffic to go in other areas within the city. And the purpose was to create another bike lane. But there's a bike lane on the street right next to it. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me to just say yes to what they were proposing. I said I need a lot more information of why.
Yeah. Which should have been the right answer, right? You're asking for more information. You're asking to understand. They should have been like, oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, here's some information, check it out.
Yeah.
Which that, in my opinion, that never really made sense, because those lanes and those streets are so heavily traveled that to bring it down to 2 would have caused so much congestion that I don't think it would have been any safer.
But honestly, I think that a lot of it had to do with the self-interest of people on the council.
Okay.
So you can kind of create an idea of why someone on the council might want to have less traffic in that area.
Because they live there? Yeah. I would imagine.
And that makes their property values go up.
Oh, that's good. That's so
there's a lot
up.
of
That is
things.
so messed up.
But, it's like, do you bring that forward straight on? Do you call people out on that? Do you ruin their reputation? Or do you try and logically defend this argument? And it makes it hard. It makes it hard when everything's a partisan issue.
Jesus, that is so crazy that even something that low level, they're just using it for their own gain. Yeah. If they are, I mean.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of identify the same way that you do, where I don't agree 100% with what the extreme left is saying.
It's hard, right?
It is hard. I'm going to stay true to what I think is the best thing to do, and I'm not going to stay in a stubborn mindset.
Yeah, you don't want to live in a bubble. You want to be open to information. You want to be able to grow.
You don't want to be in an echo chamber.
You want to be able to change your opinion if new information is brought to you that sounds better, and you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to go that way because...
And yes, that's exactly what makes you a free thinker.
That's what makes you human, right? I mean, yeah. That's what we all should be striving for. But people get so attached to their idea. And when you want to debate an idea, or you don't understand an idea and you want clarification, people get so offended. They're like, no, this is it. This is my idea. You need to believe this because I'm right. Don't you trust me? Like, don't you think I'm a genuine person?
Yeah. And this is part of the issues with only having 2 parties in the United States, because there's so many different issues and so many different stances.
And it turns it black and white.
Yeah.
You're either with the Democrats or you're with the Republicans. You can't fall in the middle. You can't be like, well, yeah, I see that on some issues. I'm with them, and on the other issues, I'm over here on the left. But you can't do that.
Yeah, it's very
rough.
complicated. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to I would hope that changes, but I don't know how you go about changing that. Maybe with information, since more information is getting out there, maybe it'll become more apparent. But I mean, like you said, especially if people are making decisions to better themselves, how do you get that information out? Because, you could release it, but then what if people turn on you and then you didn't achieve anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does that go?
Yeah, it is very difficult. And that's one of the reasons why I decided not to accept any money during my campaign.
That was a bold move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was insane.
Sometimes I look back on that and I'm like, maybe I would have had a much better chance of winning
I
if I would have
$1,000 in my back pocket for
contributed
advertising.
more, to advertising. But I really felt like that was one of the main reasons why I didn't want to accept money from anyone, is because I didn't want to have anyone pushing agendas on me that
you didn't want to owe anything to someone.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt that the main purpose, as I said, of why I was running was for at-risk youth. And so what I ended up doing was a bunch of people messaged me online, talked to me in person. They said, hey, I want to contribute to your campaign.
Oh, that's
And I
cool.
told them, what I want you to do with that money is donate it to CASA or the different local youth programs that we have here, the Raven Project, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they got some more contributions there, because I think that's how elections should be run, is you're voting for the issues, not for...
Well, yeah, you would think, right? That's how they should be now, but they're clearly not.
Yeah.
And my biggest gripe with the whole election process is how we handle debates. This whole, it's an hour timeline. There's going to be commercials, so it's cut down. Each contestant gets a minute to talk, how do you formulate a well thought out response in a minute after just hearing the question?
Yeah.
And if somebody else, attacks you over here, then you have to respond to that and respond to the question. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I was listening to a debate that you had, and it was almost like people were saying the same thing over and over again. And you can see that in the primaries and stuff, is they're not even getting out any response because they're so flustered and they're just trying to get some clickbaity moment so that they can broadcast that, and their followers are like, you just stuck it to him, when it should be about the problem. It should be about the issues, the politics, but it's not. It's a game.
People just dodge the questions when they don't have the answer, and then they'll talk about something
deflect
completely differently.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times politicians will not answer questions.
Oh yeah.
They'll just run you around in a circle.
To what they're saying, you're like, you didn't even come close to the question. What are we talking about this for?
Yeah.
And some of the questions aren't even logical or well thought out questions.
Yes,
they're like trying to catch people. And it's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Are we playing gotcha, or are we trying to do something?
I felt that way too, because I had a total of, I think, between 8 and 10 debates that I was involved in during that campaign. And each different debate, they had different questions. And I think 2 or 3 of them gave me questions before I had to respond. The other ones were all on the spot. You didn't even know what they were asking. Like the live televised debate that they had, I had no idea what the questions were going to be.
I think that's the one that I saw.
And so it was extremely difficult to try and respond to that, because a lot of the questions were irrelevant to local issues, which is what I had a passion for, of why I was getting involved. And a lot of them had to do with federal things. That what is a Eureka City Council member going to do to change the federal law?
Right? You're going to go up against the governor, right when you get into office, and you're going to start attacking these issues.
That really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Elect people for what they're going to be doing their job. What do you want to know based off of what they're going to be contributing during their time in office? Because it almost seemed like they were asking questions to try and pick out their next president. Which
hey, it's a local level. Can we focus on local issues for a second?
Yeah.
It was insane. Especially seeing it on a local level, it blew my mind. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is anarchy. This is not what it should be. And you'd think with the amount of technology that we have, that they could just, I don't know, spread it out, do like a 4-hour thing or something, and give the people participating actual time to think out a response. And then maybe the next time they meet back like a week later and they go against each other on what they said, and then the next week it's a new set of questions. Like, you'd think that we could do it better.
Right. Yeah. And there are a lot of situations where they'll ask you a question, you don't have professional advice, or you haven't reached out to everyone involved with the process of what issue you're talking about. So really, you're making a negligent decision.
Yeah, but you've got to respond because you're in the time. So
Right.
then you're like, well, I don't really know anything about this. I would trust my advisors. Like, I'd like to get more information.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And that happens not in campaigns alone. That happens at every city council meeting that they have.
Jesus.
To where it seems like they have not reached out to anyone within the local departments that it's really going to affect, that their decision is going to pertain to. Yeah, it is. It is completely insane and frustrating. Which,
I bet.
To me, it's like, if you give me some time to reach out to these people, get involved, and take action, then I will definitely do it. And that's the approach that I had. I tried to prepare myself as much as I could for any kind of question that they asked me. That way I had things to say and experience in talking to different types of people, because I was one of the only people to reach out to people like the city manager about certain things that I'm like, how do you run for political office and not reach out to the city manager?
And you went door to door talking to people, right?
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine a lot of your fellow running mates did that.
Yeah, I mean, that was difficult, you know? It really felt like I started out with nothing and tried to build up this reputation and try and talk to as many people as I could and get as much insight into all of the different issues, because there was a few driving ones for me, but then there was other things that are driving other people that I think are important too. So it was just learning about that. And I really wanted to get as much knowledge as I could so that I could be the best representative that I could be.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you know, you can only have so much information rolling around in your head at once.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point of having advisors. That's the whole point of having people around you that you trust who are well-versed in the subject, is so that you can make a well-informed decision. But that's not represented in these debates because you've got a minute. You better have a well-thought-out idea in 1 minute. Yeah. Otherwise, that's reflected in the media. Like, what? It's so mind-boggling that this is still how we're doing it.
Yeah.
When we could do it so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a million different ways that would be better.
You know what I thought was, I have a few different ideas on how we could make political campaigns better. And that would be, you know, taking a simple, short kind of test on issues that are coming up during the next predicted few years that this person will be in office, and you just click on which ones if you'd vote yes or no, and then it matches you up with the person that would represent you. That way it's like completely issue based, so that you know, hey, if this person gets elected, then they're probably going to pick the same thing as me.
Yeah, then you could get like a roadmap of kind of where they're at.
Yeah.
You know, and you could kind of follow it and see, okay, well, they'd lean this way for issues like this. That'd be a lot better than how it is now. Because most of the time you don't even get a real feel for who's on the debate stage. Yeah. You get like their three main driving factors, and then that's just repeated in every question. Exactly. And then the next candidate's trying to say, yeah, I also agree with what he said. Like, those are also because they're all competing for this airtime.
And who really has time to sit down and watch all of the different debates?
Yeah. Nobody.
No one.
Not in the standard form that we've got them in now. But if you just put the audio online or put it out on YouTube and people could watch it in clips or something. Like, we've got so many different mediums to disperse information on, and yet we're still doing it at 6 o'clock on the nightly news. Like, what?
Yeah.
And for like local, it's on the local channel, which I didn't even know what channel it was. I had to find that out. You know what I mean? Like, you think that they want it everywhere because it impacts everyone, so why not make it available to everyone?
Yeah. The other thing that I think they should change is, instead of just picking one person, they should do prioritizing, preference voting.
Okay.
Which, if you do the math, I took a statistics class on this specific issue at Humboldt State, which was probably the best class that I took. And I don't even like math, but I liked that it broke down how you can have the same number of votes come in from different people, and you can end up with 6 different results with the same, you know, kind of, this is my first choice, this is who I want to vote, but based off of if you vote for just one candidate, if you vote in preference, if you do Condorcet criteria, instant runoff voting, there's all these different things to where you can manipulate how elections are won.
Mhm.
And voting for one person is how we sort of end up with the extremists in office, to where if you were voting, let's say, in preference, and there's 4 candidates, you've got a Republican, a Democrat, a Green, and a Libertarian, and you see all of the different issues, and let's say that, you know, the Libertarian or the Green Party candidate is a little bit more center and will
Mhm.
make more people happy with the decisions that they're going to make, but they're usually the second choice. But if you get that second choice person in office, then you're going to have more people happy.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard, especially if you're a libertarian, because people hear that word and they're like, nope, right off the bat. They don't even want to hear what you've got to say. It's like, if you're not a Democrat or a Republican, you know, if you're not in those two groups, you're out right off the gate. Nobody wants to hear what a libertarian has to say, which they've got some points, you know, but we're so ingrained in these two parties.
Mhm.
Like, we're so latched on. It's just, you can't break free.
Yeah.
And how would you now? They've got so much power. They're just ingrained in our society and in our system.
Mhm.
I mean, what do you do? But I think that'd be a damn good start, is to implement something like that. Because then you don't get these wild ideas. One of which is how we're handling the whole needle exchange program.
Oh, yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Who thought of that?
Oh, goodness. Well, when it first was proposed to Eureka City Council, it made some sense. They already had some needle exchange programs
Here in the county?
Yeah,
Okay.
Humboldt County were in it, and it was an issue to where, you know, people are dying because they're reusing needles, and that's pretty heartbreaking. People are dying.
That makes sense.
You know?
Yes, I would get the need for that.
So that's how it came forward. But then it turned into this
monstrosity.
I mean, the thing was that the needle exchange program was not being ran honestly.
They're not even keeping track of the needles they're giving out, right? It could be 1 for 1 or 1 for 40, and they don't even know how many are out there.
Yes. And that's the issue. And
what is that?
That's where kind of centrist people, I think this is how I identify with this issue, is I, of course, do not want people to die from dirty needles. You know, I mean, it's terrible. But I also don't want the 2-year-old playing at the park to get infected with a needle.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where I think, in the best interest of all people in the community, it should be a 1-for-1 exchange. And we need to have people, this is a big issue too, is we don't have people holding these programs accountable and doing checks and balances on. Yeah, there's no oversight on a lot of different programs where people receive government aid. And that is a huge issue, because imagine you have a company, you know, whether it be a needle exchange, a tourism company, or you name it. You just received a bunch of money from the general fund of taxpayers in Eureka. How are you going to use that money, and how would the city like you to use that money? But then there's no one monitoring how you're actually spending your time advertising.
Well, it goes back to this mismanagement of funds, which we can still see, like the small business loans that they were doing to help small businesses during the pandemic right now. And these giant corporations were taking millions.
Yeah.
And it's like there was no oversight for that. You think they would have planned for that, or at least had some sort of oversight.
Mm-hmm.
But they just let these programs run out of control, and then, we got to raise taxes because we need more money to do these programs.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense.
Exactly.
And the needle thing, it just blows my mind, because I haven't talked to a single person who's like, no, yeah, like, we need this right now. Like, how it's running, like, this is good. This is helping people. Everyone's like, this is ridiculous. There's needles everywhere. They're not adhering to any form of a rule with trading needles or anything. I mean, and it seems like it's enabling a little bit, doesn't it? That we're giving these people the utensils to use drugs. Shouldn't we be trying to help them not do drugs?
Yeah, it'd be great if there was a strategy to where we tracked how many we were giving them, and then try and encourage them to cut back as much as we can. That kind of program would be great.
Yeah.
And right now there's not. There's come in, get as much as you want, and we encourage you to drop them off in the containers, but when they're out on drugs, how cognitive are they functioning wise to go and...
Yeah, if you're shooting heroin in the park, I can't imagine you're going to walk a few blocks to go dump off your needle when you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what? And I don't get the thought process on that. Why would you expect them to?
Yeah.
It seems like the money that's going towards this program would be better suited if you created a free rehab center or started implementing tools to help get them off the drugs instead of just accepting, okay, they're doing drugs. Let's just make them do cleaner drugs by using these clean needles. Why not try to get them to stop doing drugs?
It would be great. I think that could be something partnered with the needle exchange program that would be very beneficial, is having, because if you tell them we're not going to give you needles unless you bring back your old ones, I think that'll take incentive for them to come back to get more, and then to also have counseling available and some kind of rehab treatment for them to help them get off of these drugs.
Do you think they care, though, about using clean needles? Do you think that
the drug addicts?
Yeah, do you think that that's like a priority in their mind? Because I'm trying to think about how effective it would be if you couldn't just show up and get a needle. If you actually had to bring one, if they would be as willing to do that as they are to just go get some if they don't have one.
I think some would.
Yeah?
I think some would, yeah. I think some wouldn't, but you can't force...
Yeah, you can't.
So.
But it all ties back into the homeless problem, right? And I read somewhere that like a third of the homeless community has mental health issues. Up to a third are struggling with some form of substance addiction. But we're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Right? Which is crazy because there's tens of thousands in California that are struggling with this.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to do anything because you can't move them. Because then you're going to have the left riding your ass saying, hey, you can't do this. You can't even kick them or relocate them off the street if they've got their tents, on the sidewalk, which is ridiculous, right? It blows my mind. I don't know how we got here. I don't know how we get out of this position. And it doesn't seem like anybody is willing to risk their political reputation to try to do something.
Yeah, and to me, I think that there's not a whole lot that you can do to force someone to change their life, especially once they get to that point where they've been doing it for a long time. It's all they've ever known. It's especially difficult to try and completely. It's like changing someone's culture.
It's hard to get people to change their opinions, let alone
So I think
attitudes.
that a lot of this. And like I said, with how many homeless kids we have, I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
You think that's where it starts?
Yeah, and I used to work as a code enforcement officer for the county of Humboldt, and I had cases dealing with children that were homeless living in plywood shacks on the beach.
Whoa.
And that was extremely eye-opening to me to see that type of environment, to where there's an 8-year-old little boy, doesn't have a shirt on his back, could die any day now, living out in the sand on the beach with no one but his grandmother. No clean water, no food, and people do not realize how this little boy is being brought up. And not to say that he couldn't, at 18, turn into a very contributing member of society.
But it's so hard.
But it is especially difficult for someone growing up in that situation to all of a sudden flip the switch, especially if they're not enrolled in school. Then how would they know any better?
Yeah, it seems like it almost all ties back to school, right? Like
the school is failing students.
Oh God, the education system is I've got that gripe with universities too. The whole system is broken.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're still paying, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school to get a degree that they tell us we have to have is ridiculous. All of the information is online now. I literally cannot wait for the day when these institutions just break down.
Yeah.
Because they should have been the first ones adopting the internet. Every class should be online.
Yeah.
Like you could structure it way better than you ever could in person. I've got classes where there's 500 of us in a room. You can't get a seat in the front because those kids show up like 45 minutes early to class.
Yeah.
There are kids I would walk by classes and there's kids sleeping in the hall outside of the class.
Yeah.
It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. They're asleep. They've got their little blanket just laying on the floor.
Mhm.
And you're like, this is broken.
Yeah.
This is so broken.
It is.
And it's insane.
Yeah.
But they don't want to change anything. They don't want to give up that power. And now with the coronavirus, all these schools going online and everyone's pissed because they're not getting a refund when you're paying to be there in person.
Oh, yeah.
Like the resources that are going into that.
Mhm.
And the schools don't want to give back any money.
Where are the checks and balances with the school?
There are none, especially with private schools.
Mhm.
That is just, it's an open ball game.
Yeah, so that's the entrepreneur that owns the school just taking advantage of all the students.
They're in business.
Yeah.
They're not trying to teach people. They're
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to make money.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Yeah,
Like anything else.
definitely.
Like Amazon, they're
Mhm.
just worried about the bottom line. Universities are too.
Yes. Mhm.
And it's crazy because there's so much information online now. I strongly believe that if not now, then maybe in a year or two, you could learn anything you want to get any degree all online.
Yeah.
But they're not going to give you that piece of paper. Right?
But
If
I
you just
think that
watch
piece
YouTube
of
videos.
paper is going to start losing value.
I think it already has.
Because I think people are starting to realize exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you don't need a degree to be economically successful anymore.
Mm-mm.
And it's something that was very hard for me to come to terms with in finding a good job and being able to invest money and being financially sustainable, is realizing that I don't need that degree, because it's so commonly told to when I was growing up that I needed to have a degree in order to be wealthy. And you check out all these different sources online of how much college graduates make compared to people without their degree, and you see all of these numbers.
Mhm.
But
And it's intimidating.
It is very intimidating. But then when I went out and I spoke to the most wealthy people that I know, I found that a lot of them didn't have degrees. They had real estate.
Yeah.
And so then that kind of clicked in my head, where I was like, okay, well, there's got to be something to real estate then.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's not really being talked about or pushed among millennials, especially.
Among anybody.
I don't see a whole bunch of young people buying houses because they have so much college debt now, and they've contributed so much time towards that. Now they don't have a whole lot of work history, but it's extremely difficult.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got this $80,000 piece of paper. You can't go buy a house because you got $80,000.
Yeah.
And it's the only, student loans are the only loans that won't ever stop following you.
Yeah.
Like you can't get out from under them. You can't declare bankruptcy. You can't do anything. Those are with you until you pay them off. And the interest is just racking up. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's almost like a system of oppression in some sense.
It is.
Because it's just keeping people, you're going to have to work your whole life just to pay it off.
I think for some people, college is a good choice depending on what they want to do. But
or if you don't know what you want to do, I would argue it's a good choice.
I think a lot of people, though, shouldn't go to college based off of what their goals are. Just because economically it does not make sense.
No, it doesn't.
You're getting yourself into so much debt that you're going to have to pay. And, in your 20s, you are digging a hole for yourself that you're going to then try and dig out of when you're 30s, when these other people that haven't taken out the student loan debt have already been established.
Yeah, you're starting way behind the line of everybody else. If we're running a race in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the end game is financial independence,
Mm-hmm.
you're starting with a handicap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right off the gate.
Yeah.
But you're told from a very young age, if you want to be anything in life, you better go to school. You better go to a university. You better get that degree, because it's almost more of a status symbol now than anything.
It is. It's completely economic. If you look at all these people that are going to private schools,
Yeah.
how are they paying it? Their parents are paying it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
come from very wealthy families. Very few people that are attending colleges are there from lower class families.
Yeah.
And if they went there, they might have gotten a scholarship. That's great. But there are some situations where I think that college is a great idea if you have the finances, if your parents want to help you with that.
Yeah, if you can go in and come out with zero debt,
then
do
yes,
it.
do it definitely. But
Yeah.
if you're not in that position, then really not. I'm not saying don't go to college or go to college. I'm just saying reconsider.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Figure out if it's actually right for you.
Yes.
Because I would argue, and I feel like it's been this way for a while, if you have a strong work ethic, you don't need college.
Mm-hmm.
Your work ethic is going to be the determining factor in where you go in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen people, I'm sure we both have, people that have, gone to high school and maybe that's where it stopped or dropped out of high school, and they're extremely successful. And it's because they worked their ass off. They bought real estate. They invested. They were fiscally responsible, which not a lot of people from our generation are. Everyone's got to have that new truck or the new iPhone or the new watch.
Mm-hmm.
And it cripples you in the long run. When you're just blowing money and you're taking out loans and you're doing all this stuff. It's ridiculous, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because you've got to go to school.
Because it's difficult too, especially because a lot of people you hear in their 20s are saying that they want to go out and really enjoy their 20s and live life to the fullest. And I mean, yeah, you can do that, but you can also do that in a way that you're not blowing all the money in your bank account, because you really want to make sure that you are aware of the advantages that you have in your 20s, such as compound interest and Roth IRAs and 401ks and all of these different things that are going to build up over time because you've got time on your side. If you invest
if you're
now,
in your 20s, oh my God.
Yes. And that is so huge, because really, if you're able to contribute right now towards a Roth IRA and you have that compound interest, that's going to be like your dollar right now is worth
exponential
compared to just 10 years from now, if you decide to do that when you're 30.
But nobody wants to look that far ahead, right?
No one, I mean, it's just not taught in school. So how would you expect a society of kids growing up in school to know about these advantages that they have? And really that boils down to self-education of finances and reading economic books about investing. And if your goal is to be financially independent, then I would recommend, which it seems like
it should
the goal
be everybody's.
for most
it should
people.
Be everybody's, right? Everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
But talking about it and enacting it are two very different things.
It's just, it takes a lot of self-research.
Self-discipline.
Discipline is huge, with making sure that you're saving and investing.
But see, nobody wants to hear that. Like, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to, eat shit for 10 years in their 20s, just saving money when they could be going on this cruise with their buddies and drinking for a week straight, or going out and partying every night, or buying a new truck so that they can roll around and impress their friends. Nobody wants to feel like a loser. Yeah. Which you kind of got to eat if you want to save.
But you also have that advantage in your 20s of no one expects you to have all that stuff when you're 20. You know? Yeah, like for me right now, I just bought a house and I'm 21. And I do have a new truck, and I do have, money set aside in retirement accounts, and I go out and I can enjoy the weekends now. But up until this point, I was basically had no social life at all. I was working 70 to 80 hour weeks, different jobs, and sacrificing that. And listen, I'm only 21 years old, and I've already been able to buy a house and have a new truck and be financially okay, and I don't have any student loan debt. And that is, I think, you got to sacrifice a little bit of time, but it doesn't take that long for you to get ahead once you commit to that.
And it's so much more beneficial in the long run. Yeah. Like if you just grind in your 20s, you could have another 70 years to just enjoy what you built.
And I think that people need to realize that, yes, it is possible to retire very, very early. If you are determined, if you've got that good work ethic, if you know what the principles are to financing, if you've got that education, then yes, you definitely can. And there's so many people that will tell you that you can't. There were so many people that told me that there's no way that I'd buy a house at the time that I did, in the area that I did. And I liked that I could prove them wrong.
Yeah, you did it.
And there was a time where everyone said I couldn't. And I was the only person that thought, okay, well, I'm going to keep trying. And that's really what you got to do sometimes, is just believe in yourself, keep grinding,
keep your head down.
Investing. And just show them that you can do it, and go out and reach out to the home lenders and real estate agents and find out what all of your opportunities are, because there's times where I made offers on houses and they got denied.
Mhm.
There's times where I went to different lenders and they told me their set of rules. They said, well, you've got to have the same job for 2 years straight, you've got to have this income, but you go to a different lender and they tell you different things. So then
Yeah.
you got to reach out to all these different resources that you have available to you to see how can you make this work.
Do you think people, I think I'm a little cynical on my outlook of most people. Do you think people are just lazy? Or do you think it comes from education? Because I know a lot of smart people, but I don't know a lot of people that are saving, that are stockpiling, that are trying to build something long term, that have that foresight to look into the future, especially at our age. I mean, people in their 40s and 50s get it a little bit more because they've lived a little bit longer. They've got that better outlook on life, or not necessarily better, but they can see we're playing a long game. This is chess. You gotta be able to look 10 moves ahead and be like, this is what I gotta do to get there. But it doesn't seem like, people our age or people younger can do that.
That almost seems like a philosophical question.
Okay. I can see that.
And it seems like, you cannot say, why does this person have this drive? There could be different reasons for different people, but for most of the people that I've realized in their young 20s, early 20s, is that they've been through a lot of suffering, and they know what it feels like to be poor. They know what it feels like to be in difficult situations, and they know the value of their money and how important it is to not feel like how they felt before in the past. And I see those people are typically the ones that are really go-getters, that
struggle,
acknowledge that.
It builds the fire inside of you that carries you through life. And that's why they say that, it's the analogy of, the father who had it hard builds an empire, and the son who was spoiled destroys it.
Yes.
Because they don't have any struggle. They don't know the grind that you have to go through.
So yes, I could say that would be an educational thing. But do you really want to educate people through suffering? Is that something?
No, definitely. You don't want people to have a hard life.
That's why most people our age, I feel, are not in that situation. Because, how do you
instill those lessons?
How do you instill drive in someone?
So what do you do then? Are people just destined to either figure it out or not on their own? I mean, is there any way that you could... Because you're right, I think it does boil down to the challenges that you faced in your life, and whether you want to rise above that and prove people wrong and you've got that drive inside of you, or if you want to work just enough to be able to, see the game on Friday night or go hit your local bar and hang out with your buddies. Like which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want from life, that's awesome. I want more than that from my life, you know what I mean? And you got to have that drive to get there.
Something that really changed the way that I think about things is that I had a businessman tell me about all of the things that he had achieved when he started just working at a gas station. And he showed me his lifestyle. I got to have this mentor, and to really get an ambitious person to that end result, you just have to show them. You don't have to tell them how to do that. They will figure it out on their own. But once they know that lifestyle's out there, they will go out and they'll achieve it. And I think that's a huge thing too, is that how much are people getting out and witnessing firsthand the way that other people live? Are they surrounding themselves with more economically savvy people in that lifestyle? Or are they surrounding themselves with people that also don't care about economics, people that also have had the same lifestyle as them their whole entire life? And I think that also has to do with that, because if you're around, all these really nice things and these different kinds of lifestyle of being able to travel whenever you want to, making this contribution, being able to donate to this certain charity, you just got the money, and seeing how that feels, how they do it, then that can inspire you to go out and do it yourself.
Yeah, so you want more.
A lot of that is who are you surrounding yourself with? I think that's a big part of it too.
Well, yeah, because if you surround yourself with a bunch of friends that, don't have any motivation, aren't trying to achieve anything, aren't aspiring to, accomplish much, you're going to fall into that circle.
With the exception, I would say an exception is parents. So if your parents are doing really well off and you're spending a lot of time with your parents, odds are they're contributing to your income.
Yeah.
And they're not really putting that fire under you. If anything, they're extinguishing that fire by giving you that extra. For every dollar that they're giving you, that's a dollar that you're now not making.
Yeah, they're almost crippling you.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a hard truth, because would I much rather have my parents give me money?
Oh, God, yeah.
Of course I would. But
right? Who wouldn't? I would way rather have my parents write me a weekly check and just say, here you go have fun. That would be amazing.
Right.
But how realistic is that for most of us?
Yeah.
Right?
No.
And I think a big factor is most people are living in social media.
Oh, yeah.
Which is crippling them. Because you're looking at all these kids.
It's a fake world.
Oh, my God. It's plastic.
Yeah.
It's plastic. And I think everyone or most people recognize that, but you can't pull yourself out of the bubble.
I don't know if a lot of people recognize that or not yet. I feel like a lot of people are so into status.
Oh, definitely.
And that is one way. I mean, everyone looks at life different. Like you and I were talking about how we want to be financially independent, and we see that as a way of a successful goal. Some people, I feel, are probably just focused on their status. They just want to have a good status in life, and the way to attain that is through social media. Not necessarily to be financially independent, but to have the, I don't know what you would say,
create the perception that you're
yeah,
living this lifestyle when you're really not.
Yeah.
And that's all you're seeing on social media. You're seeing everybody's highlights, everybody's mansion, but you don't know if they're just renting that to take the picture or they're standing in front of somebody else's to take, to take a picture of it. Like it's all choreographed. It's all fake. It's all smoke and mirrors. But when you're looking at it and if you're consumed by it, then you've got to portray that. Like, oh, my friend just bought $100,000 truck. I got to do something. Like, let me go take out a loan and get this other nice car. Let me go buy a BMW. Let me go buy this nice pair of jeans. When you could go to Big Five, or not Big Five, but Walmart and get jeans for $10. But you can't wear Walmart jeans and go out in public and go to class because, what are you, poor?
Yeah.
Like that perception of just...
It's the perception. A lot of people have a hard time with that is, and
how do other people perceive me?
Yeah. And I think it shouldn't be about any of that. I mean, it shouldn't be about, to me, what's much more important is the numbers of, your investments.
What do you have in
and
your bank
what
account?
do you have in your bank account, not how you look to other people.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, would you rather have a bunch of money in the bank and have a bunch of investments, or would you rather be, barely getting by, but you've got a cool pair of jeans and a
You've
cool
got
truck,
3 million followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
I think people would pick the Instagram
Yeah,
today.
and isn't that sad?
It's crazy.
It is.
It's kind of a mind fuck because why? What are you getting out of those followers? They don't even know you in real life. You maybe know, 20 of them? Maybe you talk to 5 on a regular basis, but you've got 3 million and you could flex with that.
Yeah.
But there's no return on your investment for the time that you put into social media.
Yeah.
There's really not. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're building like a brand or something with it. But
I mean, you can make money off of things like YouTube or...
Yeah.
And that I would strongly encourage, because you can create, and, people can learn things from you. But in sites like TikTok, then what?
I refuse to be on TikTok. I refuse to even download it. That's the thing that makes me feel like I'm 70. Is because people are talking about TikTok and I'm like, I don't even really get. It's like a Vine spinoff. Like,
do you have the attention span of a goldfish?
Yeah.
Like, what?
What are we doing here, guys? TikTok, you're dancing for 10 seconds? Like, there's so much. That's the problem. There's so much interesting shit out on social media, and there's so much just meaningless stuff. Just stuff that's literally just there to consume 10 seconds or a minute.
Yeah.
That you get nothing out of. It's like, what are we doing right now? What is this?
Yeah, it's entertainment instead of education.
That is a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. But you can use social media for education. You just gotta use it correctly as
it
that
could be
tool.
a tool.
Yeah. For sure. Definitely.
But how many people are doing that?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's one of the things, is most people are using social media in an unhealthy way and only feeding that entertainment side of it.
It really is weird when you think about them, especially Instagram. That, okay, I'm just going to take a picture of myself. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to think of a witty caption. I'm just going to put it out there. Maybe add a filter, maybe do something, I don't know, edit something, and you just put it out there. I'm just going to take more pictures of myself.
Yeah.
What is that? Why?
Well, I would argue that some of that just has to do with people that you don't talk to have a way to see what you're up to. And that's okay for the social part of it. But a lot of the things that I see that I think are more harmful than helpful is the things that really distract you. And if you're spending a bunch of time on social media, not really learning anything productive, just watching a bunch of half-naked people,
it's a time
dancing
suck,
around.
which is all it is right now. It's that's all it is. It's just half-naked people or people in swimsuits or food pictures. Like, what is happening? It's crazy when you think about it. When you take a beat and you're like, okay, what is this? It doesn't seem... It's crazy how it's just blown up.
Yeah.
And everybody's got it now. Everybody's on Facebook. Most people have an Instagram. Twitter's out there. Like, and Twitter, it does not seem like an effective form of communication. I know a lot of people say that, but it's like, how do you get it? It's like back to the debate thing where you've got a minute to talk. Okay, Twitter, you've got, what is it, like 100 characters or 140 or something?
Yeah.
And you got to put out something. And then people can take it and they can turn it or blow it up or do whatever with what you just said. It might not even be what you meant. Yeah. But it's out there now.
I hate it when people do that. And that's like part of the really short attention span thing of, I could say, I have a 750 credit score. You can have one too. And then I don't explain how. Yeah.
It's all clickbaity.
I'd like to know how you got yourself to where you are. That way I can use this as an educational thing.
Yeah.
And to explain
buy my $20 premium account to figure out how you can get here too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it would be great to have more educational, explained thoroughly of, maybe I should do a YouTube channel on like all this stuff and like really explain like step by step how to do it, because it seems like not a whole lot of people do that. And maybe it's because let's say I make a video and it gets like 2 views because it's too long. Maybe that's why.
I would watch it. I think you should do that. You seem like as good a person as anybody. I mean, you're on the right path, right? Yeah. It's inspirational. I would definitely check it out.
It's just interesting because you notice this with other things, not just with, the educational, but let's say you see this a lot with girls with social media and Instagram, is they'll have a picture of them with their dog or something really just simple, but then you'll see a picture of them half naked and it'll have like 3 times as many
thousands of likes going viral.
It's like,
it's hypersexualized.
I get it. Yeah. And that's the way that our society is, but
how do you pump the brakes on that now that it's started? Because it's out there. If you want to get a lot of likes, you got to show a little cleavage. You got to put your butt out there. Like, how do we pump the brakes and go back?
People are starting to be aware of it.
You think?
I think people are starting to wake up to that. Yeah, I do. I stopped following accounts that were basically primarily that. Like once a girl started doing that and that's all they did, I'm like, well,
I don't need this in my life.
Yeah, like I'm not learning anything. I'm not, getting anything from this. So I'm just going to stop following this person and start following more economic accounts or like whatever. Business
something
stuff.
That's going to benefit me.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of do that and see, well, is this person, that sort of thing. And a lot of it is, our culture around that is also, I think, starting to change a little bit. I have hopes that we're starting to mature as people and that we're not so shallowly into how someone looks.
I don't know. Because, plastic surgery now is huge. Yeah. Everybody's getting something done. You got to have a bigger butt. You got to fix your nose. You got to trim some fat somewhere. Like, I don't know. It seems like, it's cliche, but it seems like the more integrated we get into social media, the more it's all visual. The more we want to look better, the more you got to portray your highlights.
Yeah.
You can't, and we talked about this on an earlier podcast, but you can't make a mistake anymore because everything's out there and everything's on social media and every moment is documented. And if you slip up or say something or do something when you're young, you don't have the opportunity to grow from that because you're always going to be that person now.
Yeah,
right?
isn't that terrible?
It's insane.
But you know what? I almost feel like I'd really like to share all of my failures so that people
It's
don't
important.
make them, you know?
Yeah.
And also, you know, I'm human. I'm not.
Everybody is. You're going to make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, and the mistakes that I've made, I've learned from it, and that's something that I hope that other people can learn from also.
That's how it should be. You should want to
Yeah.
share that so that other people don't fall into those same pitfalls.
Yeah.
But everybody's so scared now. Because
Yeah.
if you say the wrong thing or write the wrong caption or your post is misinterpreted,
Mm-hmm.
you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it gets blown up.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah, it is very crazy.
I mean, nobody wants to let you grow.
Yeah.
like
Well,
back
no
in the-
matter what you do, no matter what it is, you could do the most positive thing. You could be donating all this money to all these different, causes that are great, and people are still going to say what they want to say.
Oh, they're still going to hate you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
There are people out there that just want to shit on you just because you're doing something that they're not, or you're just trying to better yourself.
Oh yeah, I
and
had
they
the same
don't like
thing.
their life.
I mean, I actually had that happen to me when I was out in Mozambique living there.
Really?
People were telling me that I was racist because I went.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, and that's kind of the thing was people will just say what they want to say, and that wouldn't even be like a failure for me to go there and volunteer, right? But to some people, they just want to tear others down if they thought that they couldn't do it, or it's
Well, it's everyone's got. Normally, back in the day, everyone has an opinion, right? But you can only get your opinion to 5 other people.
Yeah.
And if you're just spewing shit, those 5 people aren't going to be your friends anymore.
Mhm.
But now, you can say whatever you want, whenever you want, and it can go anywhere. I could talk to somebody in Africa, I could talk to somebody in Egypt, and just start talking shit to them. I don't even know them.
Yeah.
But that's like what it is, right? You've got people that are just spewing shit at you who don't know you, who are just doing it. I don't know, they could be trolling, or they might feel that way genuinely, but it's like, at least I'm trying, right? At least I'm
Mhm.
trying to do something. Like,
Yeah.
how is that not positive?
Yeah.
Especially your volunteer work. Like, what?
Oh yeah.
I mean, why?
Crazy,
Where does
right?
that stem from? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah. I mean, everyone has different opinions.
Which is good. We should have different opinions.
Mhm.
Life would be incredibly boring if we all felt the same way.
Mhm. And there is something called political correctness in everything that you do. There's a way to politically do it in a correct manner. And some people will jump to conclusions and think that you're not doing it in a correct way because you can do the wrong thing with all the right intentions. That's still a possibility. And
Yeah.
there's people that will call you out on that, and there might be truth to it. There might not be. It's really up to the perception, but people are very quick to jump to conclusions, and they don't like to hear about how someone else is doing it if they had the opportunity that went by already.
Yeah.
I mean, it just has to do with how people react to things.
Well, and the whole PC culture thing is insane.
Oh, yeah,
right?
it's
Because
getting
now
out of hand.
everybody's revolting. You've got one side that's like, I'm going to say what I want when I want. I don't care how it makes you feel. And then you've
Mhm.
got the other side that's, this is my space. You can't
Mhm.
say that to me.
Yeah.
And it's a huge problem. And I think part of it stems from coddling to some instance. We're telling kids, other people need to be nice to you. Other people need to do all this stuff for you when no. Life is hard. Life
Mhm.
sucks. Life is going to beat you down a few times. If you're
Mhm.
lucky, it's only going to be a few.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
And that's what we should be telling people, not, other people have to make you feel good.
Yeah.
Not other people have to do things your way to make you feel good.
Mhm.
Because that's not life. That's not realistic.
Yeah, it's not. You've got to have, to some extent, thick skin.
Yeah.
Life isn't
You're not going to
perfect.
survive if
Yeah.
you don't have thick skin, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There's some foul people out there who are going to say some stuff that's just wild.
Mhm.
And if you can't take that, it can cripple you.
Mhm.
But that's not what we're teaching people.
Yeah.
We're saying, hey, you deserve for the world to treat you right.
Mhm.
And that's just not realistic.
Realistically, the world doesn't owe you anything.
The world doesn't even know you
Yeah.
most of the time, right? How many people are going to die and just be gone? When you think about it, that's kind of a crazy thought. You're just gone. Like, what's your impact? How many people have a genuine impact? Not just on the people's lives around you, which is important, but on, society as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's hard. It's going to be a struggle, especially if you're in, the political view, because most people are going to hate you no matter what you do. It could benefit them. It could benefit another group, but they're going to hate you regardless.
Yeah.
Just because you're there, you're in the eye. What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot something that I want to point out, though, is that I hear this a lot from both sides, is what they're entitled to.
I hate that word.
And I also don't like that word, because in reality, the world doesn't give you entitlements.
No.
If you were born in the United States, then you're already a pretty entitled person because you were born here. But if you were born in a different part of the world, they don't have those standards. So really it comes down to not your basic human rights, but basically your government instated rights.
Yeah.
Because your basic human rights is worldwide. There's no basic human rights.
No, it varies wildly.
Yeah, I mean, there's how COVID-19 is really scary and affecting a lot of people right now. Some people are dying. Well, world hunger is affecting way more people. And for most people in the United States, they say, well, that's my basic human right to food. But no, that's what your government has. It's
like, even
instituted.
The one that is kind of funny is everyone's like, in the US, freedom. That's your basic human right. But it's not. People are dying every day. People are dying every second to protect that.
Yeah.
But they don't think about it. They're like, no, this is how it was. This is how it's always going to be.
Yeah.
But that could change in the blink of an eye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you said, food. You would like to think that everyone...
have someone try and buy you and then see how you feel about that.
That changes your whole perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if somebody tried to buy me, I might have a way different outlook on life. That would probably, it would change a few things.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
But that's some people's reality.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get, they don't get the things that others have. Because there's no standard across the board.
Yeah.
There's just not. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice if there was, if we could wave a magic wand and everyone had these basic human rights. Life would be incredible.
Yeah.
But it's just not that.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not ever be that. And so instead of telling people, hey, you are entitled to this, you're not entitled to anything.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single thing that you just get.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is earned or is fought for or achieved in some way or another.
Exactly.
Nothing's just given to you.
Yeah. And if you really want to have more power or more freedoms in your city, state, or country, then you need to realize what it takes to achieve that through the government, through instituting different laws, through going out there and talking to people, not just sitting back and, instating your own.
Yeah, I think that's why social media is so effective, is because you don't have to leave the couch.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk shit from my bed. I can wake up in the morning, log into Facebook, and just start talking shit, and then go about my day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, if you didn't like, in a political sense, if you didn't like somebody's politics, you would have to go to them and say, hey, I've got a problem with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can just tweet you.
Yeah.
Hey, you're retarded. This what you're putting out is dumb. I don't like this. Like,
yeah.
You don't have to do anything now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It got to the point where I was receiving hate mail.
Oh my God. Like in the actual mail?
Yeah.
That's dedicated though.
Yeah.
Who writes letters in it? You have to really hate somebody to write them a letter. What?
I know. I don't know how I got this honor of making
God.
so many enemies.
Yeah. I'd just start throwing them in the fire and laugh and be like, oh my God, I can't believe you invested time in doing this.
And that's the good way. That's the good way to look at it.
That's how you should handle it.
You gotta laugh because it's so ridiculous. And that's how you should really react to a lot of things when people are, making these comments about you, instead of being overly defensive.
Yeah, you can't
Just-
internalize it.
Yeah, just laugh it off. Did you know that they said that laughter, it releases the same hormones in the brain as crying?
Does it really?
So why not laugh it off instead of crying and getting all
Way
worked
better.
up? You know,
Yeah.
and it is kind of funny when people will make these statements about you. If you can find some humor in it, then that's great.
Yeah, my dad used to always say, you know, you learn things that you didn't even know about yourself, right? You're like, wow, I didn't know all
Yeah.
this. And it's like, that's an interesting story. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's how you've got to look at it. Because otherwise it can tear you up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if all you're reading is just the garbage of the internet directed at you, then shit's crippling. You're not going to
Yeah.
get anywhere. You're not going to benefit. It's not positive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Most of it is negative.
yeah.
A lot of if you Google my name and you click on some links, or if you search on different things that have been written about me on Facebook, it's mostly negative.
That is so crazy.
And I just think it's kind of funny because a lot of them are not based on anything that I've
factual.
said.
Yeah.
You know, so there was you know how on Facebook there's different groups that are private, but if you tag someone in it, they can see it.
Yeah.
Well, there was a few different times where these groups would be talking about how I was a mean person in high school, or I was a bully, or I stole money from whatever.
Oh my God.
And it would just be kind of outrageous claims. And I would see it, and I would see the 100 comments about, oh my goodness, how is she running for a political office, and more smack talk. And I read through it and I kind of laughed, and I wanted to comment at the bottom, these accusations are not true. But I couldn't.
I also eat small children in my spare time, so
exactly.
You guys don't even know the half of it. Keep digging. Like,
So
what are we
funny.
doing?
Yeah, but in that situation, I couldn't even say anything at the bottom of it because it's the private group. But I still thought, maybe this is why I got hate mail.
I laugh because it's like, you really have nothing better to do with your time?
Yeah.
Like, especially when they're like, it's the same person commenting fast.
Yeah.
Like, just gunning for you day after day. It's like, dude, don't you, like, aren't you working? Don't you have something you should be doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, you feel this strongly that you just got to keep posting post after post. Like, come on. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I tried to not block anyone during this
Really?
whole process.
Oh, I block people.
I thought,
I don't need that negativity in my life. It's out.
Yeah, I actually thought that it would be great to have my haters still there because I don't want to just receive positivity.
Yes,
I'd
you
also
can get a bubble like that.
Yeah, I also want to know, what are all my haters saying? There was only one person that I blocked, and that is because they were stalking me. But other than that, I mean, the people that were just running their mouths and saying all these things, I thought that it was still in a way beneficial, because if I use it constructively, then that can be a really good thing, which is why I think I'm not so extremely left, is because I grew up in a right side. Like, my parents are Republican, and a lot of the people that I went to school with were Republicans. A lot of the people that I went to school with were liberal. Most of my teachers were liberal. I ended up being more liberal. But I'm not going to not listen to what the right side has to say.
They do have good points.
I want to listen
occasionally.
and I want to listen to their reasoning behind why they think the way that they think. And maybe, which does happen sometimes, I can convince them of the other way.
Or maybe they convince you, you know? I don't think, personally, I mean, I don't really get any comments from this. At least I've gotten comments in life, but I don't take the positive or the negative at face value. I would much rather talk to somebody in person, and even more so, talk to somebody that actually knows me or knows what we're talking about, and then I'll take their input into account. Because most people online don't know you. So even if they're saying something good, you don't know, maybe they just liked how your hair looked that day, so they want to agree with you. You know what I mean? It's hard. You can't really take you can't really take any of it at face value. You got to be in the real world to get real feedback.
Yeah.
To some extent.
And I think that a lot of it can be very constructive.
Oh, yeah.
But I see this happening a lot online, especially, is when people get into some kind of full-on political debate. And
those comments get nasty.
The comments get nasty. And that's when you lose the debate. When you start attacking the person, you're no longer talking about the subject. You're talking about the person.
How they look.
And it completely defeats the purpose of having the conversation.
Yeah, we're not even talking anymore.
And that's when I stop talking to people if they start to say, well, you're a liar and a fat mouth. And like, okay.
That's how you know they're just reaching. It's like, okay, you've got no other points
Yeah.
for the subject. We're just going to start attacking each other now.
Yeah. And those are the types of people that I don't discuss.
Well, you can't. You can't have an actual conversation, an enlightening conversation with someone who A, doesn't respect facts, and who B, isn't open to new ideas or isn't opening to actually... Because a lot of people want to go into a conversation to try to convince you. They don't want to go into a conversation to actually talk about something or...
And learn.
Yeah, or to learn. They want to go because they've got an idea and they want you to believe that too.
Yeah.
And those are the people where you can try. I've tried, but you don't really gain anything from it. It's just like they try to browbeat you into something. And I've done that before. And then you got to take a look back at yourself and be like, well, okay, like this is not... I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be closed off. And then you got to start opening your doors to new ideas, you know?
And I noticed that, like you said, it's beneficial to talk to someone in person more often, because how often are you going to talk to someone? They're going to disagree with you and then they're just going to start attacking how you look.
Yeah.
Like that rarely happens in person.
Yeah. People won't say 99% of the stuff they say to you online.
Yeah.
Because it's behind a screen, right? You can't do anything to me. But if you're in front of me and you're talking shit or saying some foul stuff, like you might get decked.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, there's a new level to it, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks shit to your face. Most people don't. 99%.
Yeah.
It's all online.
Yeah. I personally like people that talk shit to my face.
Oh yeah, I'd way rather you say it to my face, because then I know, okay, you're a little serious about it. Maybe there's something I should be looking at. Maybe.
Yeah.
But if you're just saying it online, you're just... maybe you're taking a shit or you're going to the bathroom or you're walking your dog and you're bored and you just want to take a swipe at somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how genuine it is when it's all online, because everything's fake.
Yeah.
Or most things are fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How was it growing up in a Republican household? That's interesting. I always find that interesting when someone's like, yeah, my parents are Republican and then they're Democrat, or vice versa. I always think that's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, my parents were both pretty conservative growing up. I grew up with a strange childhood. I didn't watch a whole lot of cartoons. I was mostly teaching myself how to play piano in the corner, like reading or, doing that sort of thing. But when my dad would come home, we would watch college basketball or Fox News together.
That's cool.
Pretty strange. So I grew up watching, basketball and politics from Fox News. Terrible. Anyways, but it kind of gathered my interest in politics growing up.
Okay.
Because that's what I was used to listening to and hearing my dad and what he had to say about it. And then eventually, as I got more involved and started paying more attention and doing my own research, as I finally had the opportunity to go online and, look up different sources and talk to different teachers and see what they had to say, I started to form my own opinions that were different. And in my family, we have a really great established communication to where it doesn't get personal. It doesn't start attacking.
That's a good thing to have.
It's all centered around, well, this is why. This is my facts behind why I think this. And it helps. It helps out a lot, actually, having someone that you love have a completely different opinion than you.
I think that's good. Having your ideas challenged is a good thing, because it either strengthens the facts that you use for your argument, or it makes you consider another side of view.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing bad in that. Yeah, that's really cool. My parents were both are Democrats. My sister is too. So I was never really, I had to go outside of my household to be challenged a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my friends are left leaning, and I never really watched Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like MSNBC or NBC, you know what I mean? That was our consumption. But then you go out into the real world and then you start seeing other sides.
Yeah.
And then that's how I started questioning things.
Yeah.
So it's not all this,
For me,
it's not
it
all
was
one
like
side.
I was always in a corner as the only one. My grandma, both my parents, all my brothers. I'm one of 6 children.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm the second oldest, but it's just me,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty passionate about it once I start talking.
That's a good thing. More people should be passionate about things.
Yeah.
Who wants to go live through life not caring about anything?
Yeah.
Where's the fun in that? What are you going to get?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody likes to talk shit about Trump, except for those people that ride for him, right?
Yeah.
But one thing you gotta give him credit for is he has exposed the media in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy to think that our news is so biased, but you just have to sit down and watch 20 minutes of it, and you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I get it. You know what I mean?
That's really one of the main reasons why I don't trust getting too involved with things that are over my head.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not there. I don't actually know. And the news could be skewing this 80%.
Which most of the time I would argue that they do.
Yeah.
Maybe not 80%, but they definitely skew it a little bit, or jazz it up to make people want to listen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, it's crazy that we don't have a platform or some site where you can go and just get unbiased facts. Just the facts.
Yeah.
Some website or something. It's crazy to think that, no, there's always a spin on it for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch Fox News, you're right. You're on that right platform. You watch NBC, you're on the left. There's not really anything, at least here, right? You could always go to the BBC or check out another country's perception of us, and maybe that'd be a little more in the middle.
Well, yeah, we got to push that self-education over entertainment theory.
That's the problem, right? The news, it's not the news. Maybe it really never was. It's
political
entertainment.
Theater.
Yeah.
It's theater.
Yeah. And the more I watch the news, especially in the past years, it blows your mind a little bit because they've got their ads that they're doing to make money, and then they've got their daytime talk spots where it's just them just talking about random shit or playing games. And it's like, isn't this the news? Like, can't we just have some facts? And now with the pandemic, it's, oh my God, Trump is ruining the world. Trump is doing all this bad stuff. They're trying to play gotcha with him.
Yeah.
Because they hate him so much, they can't even focus on anything else.
Yeah.
It's just getting him or, blowing something up so that people watch. Because I can't imagine the news is doing as well as it was 30 years ago. Like, they've got to be bleeding cash to some extent.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, news broadcasters locally aren't making nearly enough money.
Yeah.
You
gotta have a second job.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It really is. But, if you're passionate about something, then go for it and figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
But I think that is a big thing. Like, going back to being passionate about something, a lot of people don't know what they like and don't like, even now, still.
Well, they're not experiencing enough.
And there's so many different choices out there.
Oh, God, yeah. You could go be a spear fisherman off the coast of South America. And that could be your job. That could be what you do for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
Or what people don't, really think about is that you don't have to do anything for very long. You could go over here and do something for 6 months or a year and then move and go do something else.
Yeah.
You can do, you don't have to be grounded. The idea that you have to get a job and work at that job for 40 years and then you can retire and, have the white picket fence in the house with the nice lawn, like that idea, it's disintegrating a little bit, right? Which is not a bad thing. Like, life it's long, but it's so short relative to time. And God, don't you want to live it in a way that makes you happy? But then we go back to, do you want to please other people? And so most people get that boring desk job that they hate because, they've got a family or they want to please their parents, or they want to please their friends, or, they've got all these social pressures that they put on themselves by
Mm-hmm.
giving power to those people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still have people all the time tell me, well, why aren't you in school full time? Or
Yeah.
why didn't you end up getting your degree? And economically, it didn't make sense. And even though I had a lot of pressure, and also to get married, my parents got married at 20 years old and they're still married. And I get that pressure from my parents. Like,
Yeah.
why aren't you married? Well, I mean, it didn't make sense for me to go to college because of money. It doesn't make sense for me to get married because I haven't found the right person.
Yeah.
So all these pressures that you face, you got to realize that you are in control of your own life. And what really matters to you is going to be what's going to make you happy.
Mhm.
And that's where you should go with it. Despite what everyone is telling you
Yeah.
and what people are expecting from you, you need to do what's going to make you happy.
Is the marriage push still super big? I mean, I from a guy's perspective, like, we're never really, like, that's never really a thing, pushed to, oh, you're 22, you better get married, like, you're getting
Mhm.
older. Like, we don't really have, or at least I never really had any pressure with that.
Mhm.
Like, is that still a thing?
Oh, yeah, it's still a thing for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Not only women, I have also heard that it's a thing for guys,
Mhm.
depending on how traditional their family is. But yeah, it is a common thing still, which, if you haven't met the right person or you're not ready for that, then don't do it yet.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
yeah.
but everybody's got their own perception of
Same
how
with
things should
having
be.
kids. If you're not ready
Yeah.
to have kids yet, or if you have kids when you're young, that's totally fine. Everyone's living their own life. They've got their own things going on. Do what makes you happy,
Yeah.
despite whatever everyone else is saying.
Yeah. As long
And-
as you're happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, whatever your goals are, go for it.
But you got to be strong.
But yeah, exactly.
You got to be strong.
Don't let
Whatever road you go down, because people are going to have comments.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to have their own perception of how you should be living your life, which is crazy because what I do, as long as I'm not hurting anybody, doesn't really affect anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that's living that life. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So you got to choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
But it's hard for people.
Mhm.
Understandably.
And it's especially hard, I think, when people say, well, you're not going to amount to what you want to be if you don't do it this way.
Yeah.
That happens a
the
lot.
disappointment tinge in that, that's what gets you.
Mm-hmm.
That would always be, whenever I get in trouble, that would always be the thing that would hurt the most, is your parents being like, I'm disappointed
Mm-hmm.
in what you did. Then you're like, oh, shit. That stinks.
Yeah.
Like, getting spanked or whatever is nothing, but when they say, yeah, I'm disappointed,
Uh-huh.
that's when you know you messed up, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want your friends to be disappointed in you, or a lot of it stems, you don't want to be a loser
Mm-hmm.
in life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You want to be that guy that's got everything, or that girl that's got everything and is living their best life and
Mm-hmm.
portrays this sense of perfection, but that's just, it's not there. It's really not.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like full circle on how people perceive themselves online, because they want to not look like a loser, right?
Mhm.
But in reality, it's like, what do you define? How do you define that? If you are, like, for me, financially self-sufficient is one of the
Huge.
biggest parts of that. And a lot of people that are just doing what everybody else is expecting from them, they don't have a whole lot of money. They're doing
Yeah.
things to make them look like they are, but in reality, they're not.
Yeah. Which, like you said, if the goal is financial independence, which it should be, I mean, it should be one of them, at
Mhm.
least, right? Nobody wants to be crippled by debt or have, live paycheck to paycheck. Like, that's not a life anybody really wants.
Yeah.
But it takes focus, it takes dedication, it takes struggle, and it takes being fine with being in uncomfortable situations,
Mhm.
which nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to be in an uncomfortable situation. That's why a lot of people don't work out,
Yeah.
because you got to struggle for it.
Yeah.
Or that's why a lot of people don't chase their dreams, is because you got to struggle for it. You got to eat shit for a little bit. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know how you change that. It's like you said, you either have a fire in you or you don't. And if you
Mhm.
don't, it's going to be a long road.
Just keep failing. Just keep putting yourself out there. Fail another
That's
10,
the
20
takeaway.
times.
You never, and it's only a failure if what's that cheesy line? It's only a failure if you don't get back up or if you don't learn from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God, I failed. I constantly fail. I'm still failing.
Yeah.
I will always fail. But each failure is a learning lesson.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's important,
Mm-hmm.
is what you can pull from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I tripped up here. Next time, I'm not going to trip up there. I might
Mm-hmm.
make it a few more steps, right?
Yeah.
Then you fall down again. You get back up, you try something else. And I think that goes back to, you got to, it's hard. When I started out, I didn't know, after high school, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I didn't know where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do, or I didn't even know who I was or who I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of my saving graces was that I bounced around a lot. I was going to school at CR. I went to school in Oregon. Now I'm in New York. Before that, I was going to school in Sacramento. Like, I got to bounce around a little bit, and that drastically changed my perception on life
Mm-hmm.
and what it means to be a person,
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to you just have to find something you might be interested in, right?
Yeah.
Go down that path a little bit. If you're not interested in it anymore, take a right turn, take a left turn, follow something else. Like, you don't have to keep going down a path just because you've started down that. And I think the college example is great. If you're going to college and in your first semester you realize, yeah, this isn't for me, there's no shame in walking away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're in a bad investment, why would you keep dumping money into that investment?
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing beneficial you're going to get out from it if
Mm-hmm.
A, you don't want to be there, or B, it's not something you want to pursue. Why keep funneling time into it?
Yeah.
What are you expecting? What results are you hoping to find at the end of that tunnel?
Yeah, something interesting that I found also was that a lot of times colleges will bring in guest speakers. And locally, I know a lot of guest speakers who never went to college. But they are, they're teaching
right?
the class.
Yeah. And yeah, the college thing is crazy. And most of the guest speakers are just successful. They didn't go to college. Some drop out in high school. And the school's like, oh, we got to bring them on just because,
Mm-hmm.
they've done these great things, and we need to portray that sense that, oh, if you come here, you're going to do great things.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they ride alumni so hard that are successful, is because, okay, now we've got a track record of, if you come here, you could do this, you could do that, you could be an astronaut if you come here. But if you go to those other schools, it's not. And that's another thing I learned, is education is so, the system's so broken, and because of that, it's vastly different wherever you go. But education level and the quality of education isn't that different.
Yeah.
I know it is when you're like in grade school and in high school, like that is vastly different. But when you're going to college, like a private school and a community college they're not that different. There's not this big gap that people like to portray that, oh, if you go to a community college, you're never going to amount to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I would argue CR's staff and the level of education there is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't obviously speak for all community colleges, but CR in a small little town like ours, I was pretty impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't. So even if you're not sure what you want to do, maybe go to community college for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you're not forking out $40,000 a year or $100,000.
Yeah.
Not knowing what you want to do. You get to go. You're still kind of a kid in the sense that you get to play around a little bit and find yourself. And that's good for people too.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, when I graduated high school, I had this pressure on myself to try and go to law school because I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, right, when I graduate, I'm going to be on my own. I have no financial help from my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to take out a student loan debt.
It's scary.
I really don't want to do that. So junior year, I ended up getting really good grades. And I applied for, I think, 35 scholarships.
Whoa.
I really buckled down. And then I received about 14 of them.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it amounted to about $20,000, which paid for my first year at a Humboldt State. But after that first year, the scholarships didn't renew. And
then what do you do?
And I'm back to square one. I applied to a bunch of scholarships. I didn't get any that second year. And I had just received that job through code enforcement. So I decided to go to CR part-time But at that point that I was going to CR, I think that's when I really started to realize that this isn't beneficial for me anymore because I'm working not as many hours as I could be to save money for investing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to school enough hours to graduate within 4 years. It's going to take me about 8 or 9 years if I continue at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't get to that point where I get my degree until 8 or 9 years later and I don't save any money, then I'm going to be stuck.
Yeah.
And I did not want to be stuck.
It doesn't sound good when you put it on paper like that, right?
So I made that decision that, okay, if I'm going to go back to school, it's going to be after I invest in a house, after I invest in multiple houses, actually, because I want to have the cash flow income to not have to work another job. Like a lot of other college students that I know that are going to college,
Mm-hmm.
didn't drop out. It's because their parents are paying. They don't have to work another job.
There's no other responsibility other than school.
Focusing on school, which is in itself a job.
Yeah.
So I decided if I'm going to go back to school and I decide that I do want to be a lawyer, then that's the way that I'm going to do it, so that I can really focus on getting good grades, so that I can really take the most opportunity and make the most of it and learn as much as I can while I'm there. But if not, then I'm going to start just solely investing, and that's how I went about that approach.
That is an awesome outlook on it, though.
Yeah, I would recommend that for anyone that is in the same kind of situation where, they're not really sure about where they're going in their career. I would say just really try and avoid that debt.
Yeah, it's not good.
Mm-mm.
It's really not good. And the scholarship thing is wild that, because school is a commitment, right? And you go there and it's a commitment, and then they can just retract the scholarship, and then you're just out to dry.
Mm-hmm. It's really like, what do you want to take a risk in?
Yeah.
Like
everything's a gamble.
Yeah. Like, do you want to take a risk on investing in education, which is in a way investing in yourself? And that could pay off if you are going to college to be a doctor, or
if you're going to use it, you could go get a degree and never use that.
Yeah.
And then
that happens a lot.
Oh, more often than not, I would argue.
Yeah. And that
it's like, what?
It's a wasted investment.
Yeah, right. If you don't use it, then, but still it's that, for some jobs, it's that barrier of entry where you got to have a degree just to be looked at, regardless of if you even use that degree in the job. They just want to know that you have a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, what does that prove? Okay, that I could study, that I could cram enough to pass my exams, and I've got this piece of paper. Because you don't really learn you don't learn the same way that you could learn if you just did it on your own, right? I'm way more invested if I'm interested in something and I do, like, Google it myself and I read about it myself, than if, I'm taking this class and I've got 3 exams and all I'm worried about is knowing enough material to pass the exam, right?
Entirely true.
Yeah. Then you get out from that class and you forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? Then you graduate with your piece of paper and you're like, I don't know how to do half the shit that I studied for because I was just worried about passing the class.
Yeah, like when I was studying political science and law in college, I remember taking earthquake science was a required class, and I could not take economics because it wasn't on the requirements.
Yeah.
How the hell does that make sense?
Yeah.
What?
When am I going to need earthquake science?
So everyone agrees that politicians are mismanaging the budget, and yet it's not part of their requirements to learn. So
you would think that politicians should be some of the most fiscally responsible people out there, because we're giving them the power to oversee enormous budgets. Mm-hmm. And so if they don't know how to manage money from the get-go, what hope can we have in them of managing trillions of dollars for these programs? Why
are the standards so low for politicians? They don't
Well, they're even lower now, right?
Yeah,
if Trump can be president, God, anybody. That's my fear about future elections, is that now, if it was a publicity contest before, now it's just going to be exacerbated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because if Trump can be president, anybody can be president.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We're going to have an Instagram model as the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, right? What is that going to look like?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. No, it's a scary thing, huh?
It is a crazy time to be alive. and to be old enough to be able to like pay attention to it.
But, you know, even for me, when I decided to run for office, I wasn't even sure if I could because I was 19 years old.
Mhm.
How the heck am I supposed to get endorsements and get myself on the ballot? And what kind of background checks are they going to do? Who approves, like, who's on the ballot?
Yeah.
It's really, you go out, you get signatures, and they verify the signatures that these people will vote for you. And there you go.
Wow.
You're on the ballot. And you just have to be over a certain age.
Wow.
But to me, that was astonishing to where, okay, I can just go out and get signatures. I could be a terrible person.
Anybody can run.
I could be the worst ideal politician. And
It's scary, but it's also equally comforting, right?
I can see what you're saying.
Because then you can accept that, okay, anyone can make a difference. Because
Mhm.
what if you've got a really good person, like a farmer who, you know, maybe doesn't know a lot of people, but he's down to earth. He's got a good rapport with the community. Everyone believes in him,
Mhm.
and he runs. Or if you've got some local business tycoon in the community who is a piece of shit, but everybody knows him, right? And he's running,
Mhm.
and you can get both. But like you
Yeah.
said, then you can get, you know, somebody like Trump or something that really is not good, or somebody even worse that's running, and they could win.
Yeah.
You know, you've got both sides of the same coin.
Mhm.
That's scary when you think about that, huh?
Yeah.
But that's life. That's our system right now. So
I know. It is crazy.
it's crazy.
Besides talking about, let's see, the political campaign, college, investing, and housing, and traveling, is there anything else that
No,
you
I
had?
think we can. I think we can call it there. I feel like we've covered a
Lot.
lot of bases.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll do my own little YouTube video on
You
how to
should.
get your credit score up to 750.
you really should. I think that the internet is lacking a lot of good content like that. And like they
Mhm.
say, if you create it, people will come. People will find their way there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mhm. Oh, I wish I could also give you like a tour of my house in the video, so I could be like, yeah, you can do this at a very young age.
That could be
it's
your
not-
first
so-
YouTube
yeah,
video.
so-
Yeah, make it. I'll come out. You can give me a tour. We'll narrate it.
Because I don't
This
want
is what you
people to
can
just
reach.
think that I'm talking out of my ass or anything. Like,
Yeah.
I want people to know that, hey, you can come out and do this and do it on your own. Do it legally. You don't have to sell any drugs. You
Yeah.
just you just work and
Hard work, determination, you can get it.
yeah.
Yeah. I really think you should. I think you should, if nothing else, it's a very small time commitment. And, you know, if it doesn't work out or you don't like it, it's really not that hard to pull the plug.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Hailey. I had a really, really good time talking to you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I enjoyed it as well.
All right, cool.
And I hope you do more of these.
Yeah, I'm going to try. We'll see what happens in the future. I'm looking forward to it.
Growing pains.
All right. Thanks, Hailey.
Thank you.